the types of marriage regimes, and in brief, what impact do they have on your finances?
So in South Africa, you get married in 3 ways. The first way is unfortunately the default position, which is what's called incommunicable property.
Yes.
What is yours is mine.
Yes.
What is mine is yours. Yeah. So this also includes all of the assets and all of the liabilities. Yeah. Usually we don't want this one because what you do on the other side affects this side. So if we have a gambling problem and they come to fetch a house or they come to attach a TV, they're attaching from the joint estate. So that's an incommunicable property marriage. We're at an age now where no one should be married in communicable property.
Wow.
It's just, there's too much knowledge around it, right? Then there's one that's called a out of communicable property, excluding the accrual, which basically means there are two distinctive estates. You can do with what you want to do with your assets and your liabilities. They'll never affect your party, the other party, vice versa. So this one is very good because what you do on the other side doesn't affect us. We're able to mitigate the risk. And we're able to ensure that at least, ourselves are protected financially, our kids are protected financially. And the last one is with the accrual, which basically means whatever your commencement value is at the time of the marriage is then comes into the end at the end of the marriage. In South Africa, marriage is ended by 2 ways: divorce or death. So we then do a calculation. Remember, lawyers are not good with math. So the simple calculation is as follows. If you started at 0 and I started at 0, at death or divorce, you're worth 100 Rand, I'm worth 50 Rand. We're then entitled to the half difference of the growth accrual, which basically means 100 minus 50 gets to 50 divided by 2 gets to 25 Rand. So the spouse whose estate has accrued the least has an in-law 25 Rand that he can enforce. Entitlement in law that they can get. It's not in assets. So it doesn't mean you have you can exchange it for a house or a car. It's purely monetary, and you have 25 Rand in law that you can actually enforce against the other party.
Right. But things happen. It's the dealing I'm with it in the case, and now we're looking at it with scared eyes. And now we get to the stage where it says, hey, no. You go your way, I go my way. But then the complication then comes to issues around maintenance. The topic for today that I want us to focus on specifically is around spousal maintenance, right? Just in brief, what is spousal maintenance and what are the different types of spousal maintenances that we find in law in South Africa or generally?
So spousal maintenance is basically the obligation a party has to upkeep or for upkeep of the other party with lesser financial means, right? So the easiest way to understand it is to explain the different types of spousal maintenance.
Please do.
So we have a maintenance that's called rehabilitative maintenance. So this is essentially to try and get the party back up on their feet. Usually they are the housewives, they're taking care of the kids. They are not allowed to do work. The husbands are saying, we want you at the house, you must always be available. So that one is called rehabilitative. So we're trying to rehabilitate them and get them to a point where they're able to stand on their own 2 feet.
Hang on, but it can also happen to be a house husband, right?
Of course.
So the spouse means
yes.
Or
of course. Sorry, I should have clarified. I should have clarified it. So it's not only entitled to men. It's entitled to both men, female. It's entitled to both, even same-sex civil union, recognition of the Customary Marriages Act. So it's across the board. Its aim is to just get the party who had lesser financial means to a point where they are able to stand for themselves. And that's why it's never lifelong or in perpetuity. It's 3 years, it's 4 years. We have to look at it case by case.
So there's an end time.
There's an end time. There's an allocated time. Yes, that's correct. So usually they'll say 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. But I've rarely seen anything about 5 years. It's really just to get the spouse into a position where they're able to fend for themselves. Whichever it is, it might be female, might be male, whichever spouse was not in financial control or power. So that's what you get called rehabilitative maintenance.
Rehabilitative maintenance.
Then you get what's called lifelong maintenance or maintenance in perpetuity, which is it's a very tricky one, but it's difficult to prove. So this is usually the one where we've been married for 40 years, I'm at a point where I don't have any education. I'm unemployable.
Wow.
I've taken care of the kids. I've raised the kids. I've been the house executive.
Yes.
I want maintenance in perpetuity, meaning I want maintenance up until I die, up until my demise, or up until I remarry.
Hang on. So it ends if I die?
Yes.
Or if I remarry?
Yes,
right?
yes.
So that's when
the obligation is distinguished.
Right.
So up until I remarry, and then or I die.
All right.
But again, we're finding cases where people have been divorced, people have found partners, lifelong partners, but they're not getting married.
Because, and that still continues.
Because obviously you would distinguish that monthly obligation. There's a way to deal with it, but that's usually the scenario. But like I said, we'd have to look at the age, the financial positioning of both parties to be able to even think about making that claim.
Okay. The third one?
So there's a third one. It's not really used in South Africa, but it's called token maintenance. Right. It's usually reserving a right where you say you want R1, right? But you're not sure what the future holds for you. So you're just giving yourself an opportunity or a space where if the circumstances would change so drastically, you'd be allowed to approach the court again to say, can I at least have 5,000 Rand maintenance? We don't see it a lot in practice, but it is there.
But it does exist.
It does exist. The ones, so then the last ones, which is what's called a Rule 43 in the High Court. So if we're litigating in the High Court, it's called a Rule 43. It's called interim maintenance. Wow. If you are litigating in the lower court, which is the regional court, it's called the Rule 58 or Rule 53. I might be mixing it up. But the whole purpose of it is interim maintenance. So divorces generally take time.
Okay.
And what we have seen is usually the people with the financial muscles are the husband.
Yes.
So you can't litigate against someone who has what we call an unending financial pockets. Who can bury you with attorneys, bury you with advocates, who can threaten to say, if you leave here, where will you stay? I'm going to take the kids out of school. They go. Do you understand the threats? It's like I said, it happens both sides, but usually the case is more husband than wife. So the courts developed something beautiful, which is this Rule 43, which is interim maintenance pending the divorce outcome.